Welcome. My name is Nathaniel, and this is Impact 2022. For those of you who have not been here before, when we had Impact 2021 and we had Impact 2020, this is our conversation, our continuing conversation that we have where we talk about different issues. We talk about numerous issues from social justice or social injustice. We have been talking about race. We have been talking about religion. Uh, we talk about everything from a religious aspect. And so this is our continuing conversation that we've been having for years now, um, where we give an opportunity to talk about what you want to talk about. And in that conversation, we ask that you participate. It is a conversation, a two-way street. So you can type in your questions and your comments into the comment section. And as we see them, they will be addressed. And so I highly encourage you, if there's anything that you want to talk about or anything that I may say that sparks your interest or may spark something in you, please feel free to type it in and it will be discussed. From time to time, we've had some great comments and conversation off of those comments. And again, we are in 2022, as you noticed by our name, Impact 2022. This is our first show of the new year. And similar to the previous year, what we're going to do is we're going to, from time to time, have different conversations or different topics that we discuss. Different guests who will come in and lend their perspective and their views on these particular topics. And we will want to continue the conversation and come to conclusions. Why do we do this? And so it is to make sure, one, we have the conversation. Not that we're always talking, but we're also listening. And that is why we, again, encourage individuals to put in their comments and their questions. And so the conversation goes both ways. We can hear what people are talking about, and we can also discuss as individuals or as groups the events that are going on. And then also to get our own ideas and our own thoughts together. Sometimes you really don't know how you feel until you open up and talk it through. You know, sometimes we there's current events and there's jarring events that have gone on, as we've known over the past couple of years, especially race-related events. And even though in the moment you think you know how you feel, until you really start to think about it and until you really start to go through it and discuss it, you may not know all of the emotions and perspectives that you're coming from. And so that's what we do here. We have that conversation. We allow for that thought to be cultivated. And so we allow it to grow so that you not only know where other people are, you know where you are. And it gives an opportunity for you to learn something new so that you may change your position if need be, or grow your position. Let's say that. I know one of the things that I try to do in the conversations that I have is that I have my opinions, but I definitely need to hear what others have to say in case I need to adjust my opinion. In our current climate, or in our current, I guess our current climate, that's the best way to say it, is that people are rewarded for having strong opinions and sticking to those strong opinions. And people are not rewarded for changing their position. They want to see some consistency. That person is consistent in what they're saying. They're consistent in how they're acting. Well, I think sometimes what's braver is to be able to have a evolving position that can change and to be able to sit back and say, well, you know what? That may have been how I thought then. This is how I think now. If you feel like you were incorrect, you can say I was wrong then and I'm correct now. But that's why we're here, so that we can have those types of discussions. And for me personally, so that I can grow uh, my opinions and grow my feelings on situations based on conversations and also sometimes the comments and views of others. And so with that, that was a long introduction. This is Impact 2022. So today, with it being the first of the year, what we're going to discuss is a topic that I've heard a couple of people have said, and some couple of things that have gone on. First off, as a reminder, Um, uh, from time to time, we will have a guest. Today, we do not. Um, but we will have guests from time to time who will be able to come on and lend their opinions, and you will be able to lend your views as well. And we have one comment when we're talking about evolving our positions, and this is a very good one. Is that many people thought that the world was flat. And that is true. Many people thought that it was flat. They lived by it. They were headstrong into it, and their positions had to either change or evolve. Um, we all had to, because you get new information, and so that's where we are. So New Year's resolutions. Many people have New Year's resolutions. Many people have put those forth, and many people have talked and discussed about what they want to do. And some folk talk about one of the most popular ones is I want to exercise, I want to be more healthy. Whether it's not that you want to lose weight, gain weight, redistribute your weight, you just want to be healthier, you want to walk every day, knock off some calories, get your heart healthy, whatever. Some other ones that people have said: stop eating sweets. People want to manage their money. Just a bunch of different things that people want to do when it comes to New Year's resolutions. And there was some commentary about more social-based New Year's resolutions. I'm going to put some of those out there, and then just a discussion point on it. One of the biggest ones is that there was a resolution that was in an article where it said for 2022, based on all of the actions that we have done over the past couple of years, the resolution for 2022 needs to be that we need to be slower to anger. That's my take on it, or my spin on it. Basically, we need to be slower to anger. And that is because right now in our society, in our climate, what we've done is we've kind of got hypersensitive when it comes to listening to what people say and what people do, and becoming easily offended. And so it's a little bit slower to anger. And that was one of the ones, or that was the one that this article particularly went on about being slow to anger, and in relationship to what we do here, in relationship to how Christians are in general. That's one of the things that we're supposed to do. Or when we're talking about God slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. In society today, people get so quickly to be angry about everything. On both sides of the political spectrum, people get angry. All of the different aspects of most conversations, people are getting angry. We look at COVID, and people are getting angry because they want everybody to be vaccinated, or people are getting angry because they don't want to get vaccinated. People are getting angry because you're wearing a mask, and people are getting angry because you're not wearing a mask. Or when you're looking at what we've been talking here, with critical race theory, CRT, people are getting angry because they say, we don't want our children to be exposed to racial education, which might make them feel bad. White people are saying that. And then we have Black people and others who are saying, well, we want to teach our history so that people will know in the schools. So people are getting angry on both sides of that equation. People have been getting angry on all the classics, the classic hits: abortion, classic hits about school choice and where people should go, taxes, blah 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 blah, whatever. And even comes down to the church. It's been surprisingly, even at the at Imani, we've had people who have gotten bent out of shape over having to wear a mask if they wanted to come and participate in person. I don't know. There's no need to get angry over it or get frustrated or bent out of shape over it. You can either choose to do it or you can choose not to. But yeah, that's where it is. And so the resolution was to get less slow to anger. And so for us, it becomes a discussion point. There have been benefits through the anger that has arisen over since let's say since COVID really hit. When you talk about some of the protests that happened because of the police violence, we benefited off of the anger. We benefited off of the anger that sparked immediate action and reaction. We saw the numerous occasions of people being abused by the justice system, people being abused by uh, police brutality, and then it's going unaccounted for by not being able to see evidence when someone is shot who's unarmed. The anger that arose and the action that followed that anger is what really pushed for the incremental changes that we've seen so far. It's the anger. Not only the anger and the action that happened, it's also the fear of anger that happened. I truly believe, and this is just my opinion, that when you see cases such as George Floyd and you saw the guilty verdict that came out, that happened partially because of a fear. You had the facts in front of you. But we've all seen year after year after year, trial after trial after trial, you got facts in front of you and they mean nothing. But sometimes there's a fear of, well, what are people going to do if we let another person off scot-free? If we let this big one off scot-free? We saw the anger that happened when the event happened. We saw the anger that happened when the world was able to see the tape of George Floyd. So what would happen if we let his murderer off scot-free? And so I think that there was some reactions to anger. So when you're talking about slow to anger, and they were saying that that's what we should be a little slower to, for me, that's a conflict, because I do understand that. I think we, with our cancel culture that we talk about, and our attacking people who make one mistake, and we want to make sure that you are out of the way, we may move too fast. But then at the same time, and we need to slow down. But at the same time, those advances that were made from anger. And so, as a Christian, as a church going person, you have to sit there back and try to balance what do we want. And I will say, for this particular resolution, slowing down our anger is the way to go. But I think it's picking and choosing what to be angry about, and maybe controlling your battles. And I think that that's where we really need to go, is what's important. Everything can't be a big deal. That's how you get high blood pressure and stroke yourself out. Everything can't be a major deal. And so we have to pick and decide which ones are our major deals. And when you're looking at all the issues that have now been set before, when you look at people leaving our faith at alarming rates, especially the younger population, due to a variety of different issues. Is that something to get slow to anger about, or to get quick to angry in action about? Or when you're looking at police brutality, is that something for slow to be angry about, or be quick to be angry about? CRT, is that something to be slow to be angry about, or is it something to quick to be angry about? We have to pick and choose, I think, our battles. You can't be super angry about everything. Some things you just need to slow it down. And again, that whole canceling people out, there's been some great value to that. I honestly, I'm not a big cancel culture guy. I'm very much anti to that, but there's been some great value to that. They've set some people down who probably needed to be set down. They've brought some attention to some folk who have done some horrible things and continue to do horrible things to people who needed to be called to the carpet, as they say. You're looking at you know what? I won't put any names out there, but you're looking at some people, especially when you're talking about movements of Me Too and other things like that, where some of that anger needed to be put out there and some of those people needed to be set down. We have a comment, which is constructive anger. Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Anger that moves a person to constructive action that promotes positive change, righteous indignation. Yeah. And I'll put this, because then it becomes I think constructive anger is definitely the way to go. One of the things that I wonder about when we're talking about our anger is, for me, is obvious anger. Sometimes when you're angry at things, they should be obvious, and maybe not that you had to convince yourself. A very intelligent man, Jon Stewart. He's a comedian. He was a comedian for Comedy Central. He did the Daily Show for years. Very intelligent. What he recently did was he talked about the book and the movies Harry Potter. And in Harry Potter, he said that there was a racist trope that was used to represent Jews. And it was about bankers, and those bankers were seemingly Jewish. Um, and so, he was surprised that there wasn't any anger towards that you could just openly make fun of Jews in that fashion in a major movie, a major book, a major series, and no one is saying anything about it. And I truly do respect Jon Stewart, but I wonder, and the question that I ponder with is when I sit back and I say, if the anger has to be really explained to you, then is it really something that is truly there or hit home? It's like people saying a joke. They say if you have to explain a joke, it's not funny. Right? That's one of the things that funny people, comedic people say all the time. If you sit back and be like, "Well, did you see what I did there? I said this and I did that." And blah, 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 blah. Well, if you got to do all that, then the joke's not funny. Same thing with the anger sometimes. If we have to sit back and to explain to you why you should be mad about this, or why you should be passionate about this, or why you should be concerned about this, then is it something that really is there? And so, for example, in the Jon Stewart situation, where he's saying that this is what they did, is it truly what they did? Or are you making connections that you could make that weren't necessarily there? You're finding something that wasn't necessarily there because you had to sit back and explain to everybody else in the world. You were the only, you and maybe a couple other people were the only ones who saw it. Then is it something to get angry? And so that goes back to the constructive anger in the picking and choosing and deciding. If we have to rile ourselves up sometimes, if somebody has to explain to you why you should be mad, then can that lead to a constructive place, or is it a genuine thing to do? It's that weird area. And so what we're talking about, and I'm gonna go back to the comment specifically, to the part where it says where it's an action that promotes positive change. And that's where it comes to me with picking and choosing with the anger, making sure that we promote positive change. And so if it has to be explained and it was a borderline issue or something like that, then going fighting against it, is that really promoting positive change? Give you another real world example. I saw the people who were talking about CRT, critical race theory. No issue was there. What happened is that as a result of everything that was going on with the fight from different groups, attribute Black Lives Matter and other social action groups trying to push the rights of African Americans, there were people who had to explain to folk that you should be mad about this obscure teaching tool that is used very infrequently at the collegiate level. You should be concerned about this issue, CRT. I had to explain to you why you need to be mad, because CRT is talking about, systematic and systemic racism. It's talking about racism in our system and looking at this and this and this and this, and it could hurt the feelings of your kids, even though it's not even taught in the schools. I had to make you mad. I had to explain to you why you should have been mad about this thing that really wasn't even there. And so, because there's some people who legitimately are concerned about their children in reaction with critical race theory. However, it's because somebody had to explain to you that this is something that you should be mad about, that in reality didn't affect you at all in life. And so is our slow to angerness fooling us? Are we being fooled into that slow to anger type of situation? Yeah, that's for me. That's just a interesting back and forth. All right, and the next one, the next um, resolution, and we'll only do the two today, and that is this one was the resolution to resolve to be um, more active in social issues, and it may seem similar to the last one a little bit, but that's for all of us. It's whether or not we need to be more active in social issues. Um, but before we do, if you do not know your past, you are destined to repeat it, and that's in reference to the CRT discussion. And we've discussed this numerous times here on this show about CRT and the importance of what the fight for CRT is, not the actual concept of CRT, because that's not what most people are talking about. It is the fight, which is whether or not Black history, true Black history, the complete history, including slavery, including Jim Crow laws, including a lot of the negative activities that were performed against people of color, should those be taught in the school system? And that is where we're at. If you do not know your past, you are destined to repeat it. I'm going to go off on a quick little tangent here. So to anybody who may doubt the necessity of being able to teach some of the horrific things, we have this situation with individuals, and they call it Karen situations, and that's where women, usually white women, have an entitlement factor against people of color. And in some of these situations, you have women who are calling the police on individuals of color and putting them in very dangerous situations. Sometimes saying things happen to them that honestly did not happen. And so you're saying that a man assaulted you or a woman of color assaulted you, and you're calling the police. Now, what's important here is that let's act like people just don't know. If you don't really know the history of what has gone on in the past, you don't know an Emmett Till type situation. You don't know what happened to him or others like him. You don't know that in the past that people of color have been murdered because of false accusations, or even sometimes real accusations of somebody of a man saying something to a woman of color, or they're assuming that a Black man may have done something to a white woman, that those individuals murdered, lynched, that they get unfair trials. When you look at a situation not too long ago in the 80s, when you look at the Central Park Five, and you have people like Donald Trump, who put out a newspaper ad when the Central Park Five were accused of rape and murder, that he put out an ad that said that they should be hung, basically advocating for the lynching process. If you don't know that kind of history, especially if you are a person, a white person or a white woman, or more specifically, if you don't know that history, then maybe you don't realize the weight and the importance and you don't realize how much power you have when you are doing things as calling the police on a person of color, because you don't know your history, because you weren't taught about the historical events that have happened in the past. And so if you don't know that your words mean that somebody of color can be killed just because the police showed up, then maybe you'll use those words with less responsibility. But on the other hand, if you do know, and we know that you know because we taught it in the schools, then when you do make a false claim against somebody of color, and we know you've made a false claim against somebody of color, like has happened recently, now that we have cell phones, then you should be punished with the fullness of it, and with the seriousness of understanding that you try to commit um, quite possibly a murder. You participated in that. That may seem extreme to some people, but that's the concept of sitting back and understanding your history. And so if it's taught, then there's no excuse where somebody can sit back and say, well, you know what, I didn't know. I didn't know that Black people could be killed by me just saying some things that may not necessarily have been true, or me calling the cops on a situation that really doesn't rise to that occasion. Comments. So that if you don't know your past, you're destined to repeat it. It hits right on there. And then, unfortunately, we have some groups that insist we forget our past. That's a great one, because I don't want to put that issue on one race or the other. The CRT truly is both people. There are Black people who do not want to address slavery. They do not want to address from whence we've came when you're talking about Jim Crow and different issues such as that. Black people. I can't speak for other races. I don't know how the Japanese Americans feel about the Japanese internment camps, whether or not that should be taught in history. I don't know how Native Americans want Native American history taught, and the savagery and the brutalness that was put towards them. And even there is a Native American slavery that happened as well. And then we're not talking about the traditional slavery. There was as they have a different name for it, but it's a slavery where they were forced to work for, as slaves, for some of the settlers and some of the people who've gone on, or some of the explorers and different. These weren't voluntary actions, and they weren't paid for them, and they were forced to work for some of these people. So when you hear about some of these great explorers who had the indigenous person who went with them, that wasn't a voluntary situation. So I don't know how other people want to be taught, or how other people feel. But I do know, as from an African American perspective, that yes, the majority of us, I'll say, believe that our history should be taught. But there is a group who thinks that, no, we shouldn't teach that. We shouldn't teach our past. Let's just slide past that. And if we don't teach that we were slaves, then they won't. People won't feel bad. Talking about Black people won't feel bad about our past, and we will just go into life on an equal footing because we won't know that there was ever anything, bad out there. I'll be blunt. That's stupid, but some people do believe that. You think just because you don't talk about it, it's not going to affect you in the future. I have a 5-year-old son, and I think I've said this before. He still has that concept of, if I pull the covers over my head, if something scary is going on, I pull the covers over my head, I'm good. As long as I don't see it, I'm good. That's not reality. And as adults, we should know that, especially as African Americans, we should know that. You can't pull your covers over slavery. You can't pull your covers over racism and think that it'll just go away. It's still here. It's in different forms and different shapes and different sizes. It's still here. It's not from all of the people who you expect it to come from. And there's plenty of great people who do not prescribe to the same type of racism that was coming in the past. But it's still here. And it will still affect your children's lives, our grandchildren's lives, our great-grandchildren's lives, regardless of whether or not we teach them about slavery. And so the best bet for me and for most of us is that we go ahead and we let you know the past. As it was said, if you don't know your past, you're destined to repeat it. Make sure that you are equipped with all the information that you would need to have. All right. Well, we're going on to the second resolution, but I guess we kind of ran out of time on that one. So yeah, I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the conversation. because again, that's what we do. Impact 2022, and we will do that all year, and continuously do that. So I appreciate everyone who joined us. I appreciate everyone who made comments. Please continue to join us as we do this all year, as we continue this conversation. And please make sure that you, if you're out there and you had any questions or any comments, that you participate. You put them in the comment section. This conversation does not end when the show ends. It continues on. Please come back. We will be here next Tuesday, same time, same place. Impact 2022. Thank you for joining us.